Welcome to Love Where You Live, a podcast where we have conversations about why it's awesome to live in Boulder. And today I am joined by a brand new friend, Hayden Dansky. And Hayden Dansky is the executive director for Boulder Food Rescue. And I'm just going to leave that dangling for a second because I'm going to share more about what that is. But I'm going to say Boulder Food Rescue, for those of you that have been in Boulder for any period of time, have seen the Boulder Food Rescue bicycles and, even more importantly, the trailers that go behind them. That's my teaser. Hayden, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm really excited. Just to let you know, too, a really exciting update in Boulder Food Rescue is that I used to hold the title executive director.
Okay.
I still do to some degree.
Okay.
But we actually have two of us now.
Amazing.
So I'm a co-director, which is really fun. That was very intentional. People always say, it's lonely at the top. And I thought, maybe it doesn't have to be.
Yes.
Maybe we can have a
cool.
comment. So there's actually two executive directors. We call ourselves co-directors now. And it's a really fun part of our model.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, who's the co-director?
Their name is Lindsay Loberg. They were previously the program director.
Okay.
And they were kind of always my comrade in terms of brainstorming and thinking and visioning. And so we've worked together for a long time. And now we share that title.
But not new to the organization, just new to directorship.
Exactly.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just glad I didn't get it wrong. I was going to call you the founder or the
That's also true.
head honcho. Okay.
I'm one of 5 founders. Yeah.
So tell me about that, because I usually go chronologically, but I first want to because I teased it, just give your, if there were a elevator pitch or if there's a sort of nutshell delivery, what is Boulder Food Rescue and why?
Yeah, so we distribute food that would otherwise be wasted at grocery stores, farms, farmers markets, community gardens, cafes, anywhere that has extra food that's still perfectly good. And then we take that to about 50 different communities across Boulder to help serve people living on a low income, to help them get access to nutritious foods in their lives.
That's so good. That's a perfect pitch. That's a perfect summary. So, but we're kind of like taking food abundance and giving it to food insecurity.
Exactly. There's
so
much surplus food for all sorts of kind of ridiculous reasons.
Right.
I mean, anything from like you get a bag of clementines and you have one that's a little off or soft or molded, and they'll toss out the whole bag.
Okay.
Or like sometimes it's like, consumers want your perfect iconic vegetable.
For sure.
This carrot is perfectly straight and it meets my exact, standard in terms of size. And sometimes they're a little funky looking, you got a split, you got 2 legs. It's still perfectly good, but it won't sell. And sometimes they just over order. And they, have very limited space inside the grocery store, so they have to take things off the shelf in order to put things on the shelf. And you look at the produce you get, and you're like, why is this going to waste? This is, it's perfect.
Totally fine.
It's just an ordering mishap. And so all of those are reasons that, they might donate food. And we particularly focus on produce because it's, more nutritious. It's food that's harder to get. And in a kind of typical food banking system, by the time that produce gets to a food bank and then out to a pantry and to people, oftentimes that soon to expire food's going to go bad. And so we can take it directly to communities, and then we usually take it to affordable housing sites, preschools, daycares, and then people that live at those sites, they distribute it amongst themselves. And so we're able to cut down on time, and then the people receiving the food, they have an active part of distributing it, building community, meeting their neighbors.
Amazing.
So
what a model.
Yeah. It works.
And so I'll do what I always do, which is sort of put a pause right there, because I want to hear. But this is so fascinating to me. It really is such a cool thing that I think a lot of people will have seen the bikes and will have seen, and you can kind of start to understand a little bit based on the name. But then really, we're going to find out a lot more if you're okay with that. But I love, my brain maybe goes this way chronologically. So I just want to kind of ask where, and this is again, share with me what you will. Where did you grow up and because I like to find out what brings you to what you're doing now, which is so awesome.
Yeah, so I grew up in North Carolina, Western North Carolina.
Okay.
Small town, kind of outside of Asheville, east of Asheville, south of Boone. If you're familiar with the area. And I moved to Boulder when I was 17, turning 18 to go to CU.
Okay.
So I was like, gotta get out of here.
Is that like Henderson? What is that down there?
It's called Morganton, North Carolina.
Okay.
Yeah. Most people don't know unless they've like driven on I-40 and stopped for gas there.
Yeah. On your way to Wilmington, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. But it was like, a very beautiful place to grow up.
Okay.
Spending time in nature was like my reprieve from everything in the world, and still is. Like, I feel like that's such a core fundamental part of myself is like the tree, like Forest Church. The trees are my place to, unwind, to heal, to have, peace in my body. And so, I think there's like definitely a link in terms of like, trying to spend as much time in nature as possible. Colorado always seemed, I hadn't even been to Colorado, but I was like, there's a place with mountains and trees and amazing, landscape. So that was part of the drive to come out here.
And so may I say, so Western North Carolina, I mean, you were already from young, that was your connection, was nature. You're just, that was it. And did you do outdoor sports, hiking, running, any sort of?
Yeah, I grew up playing soccer, and then when I was in high school, I had some friends who were getting into backpacking, climbing, and
fun,
canoeing, all of the outdoor sports, and so they kind of took me up my first climb was a 4-pitch climb outside, and people were like, oh, that's an interesting first climb ever, but they were like, here, strap in, you're good, and so like they kind of brought me into it, and then got me into a program that like teaches youth how to survive in the woods and how to, and so I was able to kind of get initial access to camping and climbing and backpacking and all of the things as a high schooler, mostly because my friends got me into it. Prior to that, it was just, when I was a little, I was just like running around the woods with my brothers, that
doing
was
the thing.
Yeah, go out to the creek all day kind of thing. So.
Yes. So small town is where you grew up, very small.
Yeah, and I lived in a few different places, growing up, but 0 to 9, we just had woods around the house, and so
what a good way to. And you had how many brothers?
I had 2 older brothers.
2 older brothers. Yeah. Were they kind to you?
Yeah, they were my like heroes.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So you're going to have a couple brothers running around the woods and in some traditional sports, some soccer and that. But really, and it just fascinates me kind of to see where the evolution was. So you're connecting with nature. You're climbing. You're into it. You're deciding you're going to go to college, and there's mountains in Colorado. That's it? That's kind of where we're at?
Yeah, I mean, I applied to schools. CU gave me money, so that was part of it.
That's huge. Good for you. Congrats.
It made it, possible for me. So
awesome.
That was certainly part of it. And then, I think my environmental activism and social justice activism, came later. It's weird. It's like, I got the analysis for it later. I got the language for what was happening. But I did always feel this, I want to be useful in the world. Like, I care about people and the planet and the animals, and all of those things are connected, you know. And I did get that from a young age. When you think about food access, I'll tell you a little story about my life. When I was again a little, elementary school, I went to a school with a lot of immigrant families. My best friends growing up were from Laos, China, Guatemala, Mexico, and I don't know why we just found each other. I think we were the short kids in the class, we were just like, we're buds, I see you. And I would go hang out with their families, and we would go run around the trailer park. That was we were just buds. And my mom would come and talk to their families across language, right?
Okay.
We don't speak the same language.
Yeah.
Kids, can translate,
for sure,
write things, however. And there was one time where one of my friends' families needed more clothes in their community.
Okay.
Right? And so my mom went and organized a clothing drive at her work.
Gotcha.
Brought back the clothes.
Gotcha.
And then in exchange, that family gave us, in my mind, again, I'm 8, let's say, hundreds of egg rolls. I think me and my brother ate egg rolls for days and days and days.
Amazing.
We were just this is incredible, and so while I didn't have language for social dynamics and class dynamics, it's what I was witnessing was reciprocity, right?
Yes.
And what I was witnessing is that communities without abundant access to resources take care of one another.
That's awesome.
Right. And so I think I had that kind of implanted in me from a pretty young age.
Very, yeah.
When I was 9, I lost both my oldest brother and my mom separate in 2 separate car wrecks, 3 weeks apart from one another.
Oh, my word.
And so I had this big, like, obviously emotional, like, I had big tragedy in my life from a very young age. I lost my 2 caretakers. Yeah. My oldest brother was, like, my biggest mentor. My mom was my mom. Everyone's got mom,
Right.
Stuff. And so that, like, also really, like, still today. It impacts everything I do. And after that, it was, like, me and my brother and my dad, and dad's working. I come home from school, pop something in the microwave. We didn't really have, like... I didn't have, like, a lot of connection to, like, that sense of community, I think, and I was going through my own, healing journey.
Of course.
And I think when I moved out here and found, like, I found food again. I found food as a connector. I found, like, oh, we can cook together and eat together, and I started building community around, like, having giant meals.
Yeah. So
and
good.
I was like, yeah, and I realized, like, oh, you make a big meal and you create a space. And then in that space, people connect and people gather.
That's right.
And you can start to understand
100%.
one another across difference, across language. And so I, like, refound that piece of myself. And I just had to move to have a different context for doing that.
Oh my God. No, fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that. What a powerful, not only experience, but the story. And now you keep saying it, you said it a couple times, you have the language now.
Yeah.
To kind of look back, it was always there.
Right.
I'm guessing then for some of those years, 9, 10, 11, 12 through high school, you kind of lost a little bit of that North Star or that element of yourself. Is that fair?
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of it is... as a kid. And
totally.
We do what we do to survive.
Right.
I certainly had friends. Like, I even in high school, it's like my friends would come over and we just, like, hang out in the kitchen.
Totally.
I don't know why the kitchen is always the place to hang out.
Exactly.
Like, you could have, like, the most comfortable couches and everyone's sitting on the floor in the kitchen.
Perfectly
like,
good living room right over there.
I think it's the exact point I'm trying to make.
Yes.
It's like we surround around food. So, like, there was still this element, but I think when I moved and I didn't really have community anymore. I didn't have friends. I found food was the place to
That's
do
fantastic.
That, so,
wow.
For me.
That's amazing. And this is what I meant. I mean, I really so enjoy getting to share just the backstory and just understand you more. And so thank you for sharing that. I want to kind of get back into, now you're 17. You've been given, what were you studying? You're getting ready to come to CU. They've given you a nice offer. What's the subject matter?
Yeah. So I double majored in eBio, which is evolutionary biology, and ecology, and philosophy.
Awesome.
So, and those were the things I was interested in.
Good for you. Yeah.
Nature again.
Totally.
It's like,
you knew.
How does this work? And then the thinking about, like, why?
Why? Yeah.
And I think that the intersection of those two, I wasn't like, oh, this is the thing I'm going to get a degree in or to get a career in. Right. I wasn't thinking that far, as many 18 to 22-year-olds are. But it is interesting to be like, oh, the intersection of those two, I think for me was like a conservation ethic, right?
Right.
Absolutely. Where does, like, the land and nature and the things that I, hold with so much reverence, intersect with, like, ethics, and what is our responsibility to this thing. And so I think that was, like, really a lot of where my interest lay.
Yes. Oh, it makes sense. And so this is just, logistics. When you've been accepted to CU, did you have did you have a visit? Did you pop around to schools to see where you'd want to go? Or was it?
I did. Yeah. I came out, visited CU, I visited CSU. I loved how close the mountains were.
Yeah, that's right.
Like,
this.
It was like, oh, I can bike there. Like, that was also, like, we would get, where I grew up is, like, we were in the foothills. My friends and I would get in the car, but we had to drive, 45 minutes to an hour to get, out to nature. And so there was something about, like, the access.
That's right.
I was like, wow. CU is the one that gave me money, and so that was a piece of it too. It was like, oh, I have a scholarship here, and I can bike to the mountains.
What else do you need?
What is this place?
What is this magical place?
I didn't know really much about the community or the culture or anything else, but So it was either, like, come here or stay in North Carolina, and I think, the adventurous spirit in me was ready to get out. And
that's so cool.
explore.
Yeah, that's so cool. And then, so I love that you got to have the visit. You come in here, roll in freshman year. Can you remember that first, or maybe it's the second because of the scouting trip? But can you remember your first kind of experience when you're like, "This is my new home. I get to go here." Can you remember that?
I remember biking around. There was this moment, and I was going under one of the tunnels,
Sure,
28th or something, and somebody biked, around me and rang the bell, and was like, "You should get a bell." It was like really weird, like out of nowhere. I was like, okay, but I was like, oh, that's what people do. They get bike bells. Like there's just this like moment of like, okay. Oh
my god.
I don't know why this random stranger is encouraging me.
Right.
Okay.
How did they know I don't have a bell too?
But it is. Totally. But there was something funny about that of like, oh, right, I live here, I bike here. I don't think I got a bell. But
you did not?
No.
Oh man.
I did.
Do you have a bell now?
But when I actually don't.
Yeah. Okay. Listen.
And every time I've like been on someone else's bike and used them, or other people have used them, I'm like, this is really convenient. And it's one of those things. I'm like, I could just get a bell.
Yeah.
Stubbornly resisting.
Stubbornly.
You know what? Don't tell me what to do. I'm not going to get a bell.
I will make that decision. And someone, they set you off that first time trying to drive your ship. You're like, nope.
But I think biking around, getting to know, like, it's my favorite way to get to know a place. I
agree. I share that with you.
Yeah.
So cool.
It's the right pace.
It is.
You can really see the place, but you're going slow enough to like take.
That's right. You can go distances, but you're not going too fast to notice, right? Yeah. That's so cool. Okay, so your first experience, you're riding a bike, you're kind of cruising around, someone's yelling, someone's suggesting you buy a bell. Was it and I'm guessing you lived on campus or nearby, you're central, you're kind of you're right in the epicenter.
Yeah.
What a beautiful introduction. And do you remember, was there an immediate or was there a time when you said to yourself, I made the right call? Or was there ever a doubt? I just wonder about that.
There were plenty of times. I think, about 3 years into college,
sure.
I took a year off.
Okay.
I went and traveled around the world. So there was a little bit of like, I was like, I just need a break. I know some people do that before, they go to school, take a year off, explore, try to figure out what you want to do, work. Or don't go to school. But I think that like I did have that like, I need to like reassess.
Yeah, good for you.
I did travel around. I came back. I worked to make up for the money I just spent down all my money traveling around. So then I had to like catch back up a little bit, pay for my last year of school.
That's right.
So there was like a little bit of that time, and then after school, there have been plenty of times. Actually, ever since that was 2006. I've been here for almost 20 years.
Right.
There have been plenty of times where I'm like, oh yeah, I think I could leave here.
Yeah. Yeah.
The thing that, and thought I would leave, actually.
Okay.
I was like, I'm going to leave. I'm not going to stay in Boulder. Everyone leaves. There's definitely like, you meet people, you love them. They decide to leave. It's a hard part about being in a like more transitionary space for a lot of folks. The reasons they leave like all make a lot of sense to me. I've always thought I might. And I've stayed for quite a long time, right? And so I think there's a big piece of that was Boulder Food Rescue.
Okay.
We started this thing, and honestly, I didn't think I was going to be like executive director of a nonprofit. Right. Like I didn't even know what that meant. Yeah. And I had people who were like, I think you should try this out. I think you should run this. And so, and then I kept being like, oh yeah, this thing. Oh, I have this responsibility. Oh, I have this thing I really care about. And it's grown and it's changed in this way that I has like always attracted me to staying.
Fantastic.
And I've met people through that work who are like some of my best friends who are the reasons why I'm like, oh, you're why I'm here.
Oh, I love that.
It is like some of the harder parts for me about Boulder is like, it's a very wealthy community. It's a very white community. And then there's all sorts of dynamics that come from that. And so when I'm like, I make sense when people leave, it's like because they've faced people of color who face microaggressions on the street, like trying to go to the grocery store,
Right.
The affordability, factor.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of reasons that make it really hard to stay.
Absolutely.
And it's the people that are here, in spite of all of that, I feel like we're like the Boulder Underground,
Yes.
We're like, no, we're here. And we also get to be here. Like, when we belong here. And I think it's that, building that community, that's really like help me be
That's fantastic.
I'm here for the people who want to be here.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's really good. And it's I love this area. I want to stay here because I do think that, especially, look, this conversation started with love where you live, why it's awesome to live here. And I'm a very optimistic person. I do focus on positive things, but there's a lot when you look just completely objectively at things where there's a lot of negative. And if you're talking about Boulder, there are a lot of struggles here, like ones you just mentioned, very, very difficult to afford, very affluent, very homogenous, very challenging to raise kids, to grow up, to be an adult, to be a young adult. So we do see that. And a lot of times I've had these conversations where a whole new perspective comes out, pros and cons. And I think it's an equally important part of the conversation. So if we can, let's just stay there for a minute. You sort of said it's like a sub community almost. Am I hearing that? It's almost like, is that fair?
I call it that. I do think, Boulder has also gotten a little more diverse over the years, which is funny to think about. But yeah, people find each other, and that is happening. And I think it is diversity, and it is culture, and it is many languages, and it is like many genders and queerness and different perspectives that like I am drawn to. Right. Because I think difference is a beautiful thing.
Agreed.
And it's not even to name. It doesn't feel like for me a place of pessimism. It's like, let's name what it is, and recognize like there are many different experiences and many different truths, and they all coexist.
There you go. Well said.
And when some experiences and truths and ways of being in the world get outcast or pushed to the side or hidden, then that creates a power dynamic, right?
Yeah.
And that creates a lot of challenges. And so, what I would love in Boulder is for us to be like, no, let's celebrate our difference.
There you go. There you go.
Like, and we can hold that even if there's tension in that. That's what. I don't know. We're just people. We're just people, and
that's
we're
right.
gonna have different opinions, and that's a great thing,
And I think now more than ever. I mean, I'm quite a bit older than you if I do the math, but I think about what I used to really observe was a lot more acceptance, even in fights, like acceptance, even in disagreements, friendships, even with all those polar opposites, and now it has become a little bit too much of, you're not like me, I push you to the side, you don't agree with me, you're not a good person. And I think that, at least when I grew up, I didn't grow up in a perfect place or a perfect time for sure, but I do think that we were able to have differences and then put them aside and be together. And I think what you're saying really kind of brings that back, where it's like, hey, it's fine, don't hide it, don't worry about it, don't be shy of sharing this, because we can be different and really love one another. Right? Is that fair?
Yeah, that's right. And I think, for me as someone, I'm like constantly like, I love to learn and I love to change. And even though can be really hard sometimes,
that's right.
It can be really hard sometimes, And I think we do that through learning about one another.
Right.
I feel like it's not facts, that change us. It's not like stats. It's like stories.
Yeah.
And here we are on a podcast telling stories,
that's great.
And when we can build trust enough to offer one another our stories and our experiences, that's a gift, And so when we live in a place that wants homogeny, like keeps us from difference and from one another, and so I think the more that we can bring out those stories and those truths, the more we can change in ways that like I think bring more love into the world, right, and more creativity and more joy, and that doesn't mean the violence and the pain and the disagreements aren't hard. It's just like all of that gets to exist.
It all exists. Well said. Very well said. And I think you're right. It does. It's hard is hard, and hard is an important part of that learning and part of that growing. That's right. But that's really well said. I love that. So, thanks for staying there in that with me for a minute. It all comes up with, as I'm coming back to like imagining you, And you're through school, you've taken the year off, you come back from traveling. When did you start Boulder Food Rescue? How long has this been going?
I started in 2011.
Is that right?
Yeah,
okay. Okay.
Right.
So yeah.
Kind of right after I finished school.
Right. Yeah. Pretty soon thereafter. Okay. Yeah. And how did that come about?
So it was me and some friends.
Yeah. Were you guys eating?
Eating some food.
Naturally.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
You know, we would have these big dinner parties and people would get together. And,
yeah.
You know, we were learning about food waste. And I would see, like, oh, these grocery stores are throwing away immense amounts of food.
Right.
And so we did some exploration. So there's a couple different origin stories.
Okay.
You know, things happening simultaneously. A couple of people that helped start Boulder Food Rescue, Caleb and Becky. And then Becky was getting her, she was finishing up med school.
Okay.
She became an ER doc.
Oh, wow.
Caleb was finishing up his PhD at CU.
Okay.
And him and his lab mate, they all did this, like, research looking at food waste, and showed there was enough food going to waste to feed every food insecure person, simply calorically.
Right.
There are two different systems with there's complications in that. It's not,
For sure.
It's not as simple as it seems, or even as my pitch makes it seem. But, in doing that, we were talking to the food bank, Community Food Share, who's a partner of ours. We were talking to the food pantries, and we're just trying to understand the landscape.
Okay.
Why is this food going to waste? You know, who's hungry? What is happening? And some of that we learned is like, oh, yeah, if they pick up food and then it gets taken to a warehouse and then sorted and distributed to a pantry, and then that pantry gets to people, 5 to 7 days can pass, like something more perishable that's not going to last. And so we were like, what if we take it directly to people? And they were like, great, you should do that. That sounds awesome. So that was like one piece. What we started before Boulder Food Rescue, we started a meal called Food Not Bombs.
Okay.
Food Not Bombs is known as like it kind of started in the 80s as a anti-war protest. They were like, hey, let's... instead of putting all this money into building bombs, we could feed the people in the streets, you know. So there's Food Not Bombs chapters across the country.
Sure.
It's really just it's a meal in a park for whoever wants to access food.
Yeah.
And we would have 100 people every Saturday come to this meal.
Yeah.
And we were getting like tons of fruits and vegetables. Like people would pile fruit salad on their plates.
Okay.
And, we were just like, yeah, every Saturday, wake up, cook, we had a church that we would cook at the church, take it down to the park, serve, 100 people, play some music in the park, clean up. That was like our every Saturday. And what people were telling us was like, A, this is the like healthiest meal we get all week.
That's awesome.
B, this meal feels different because we all sit down and eat together.
Community, yeah.
And anybody could cook, anybody could serve, anybody could clean. There were no rules around it.
There you go. Okay.
And so I think oftentimes this is again prior to like understanding nonprofit dynamics and how everything works. But I think our traditional charities, and a lot's changed since then. I think a lot of nonprofits have really like changed the ways they interact with people. But there is this like people who have resources are serving those who don't.
Right.
And that creates a power dynamic.
Right. Again.
And in order to access food, you have to stand in line and be well behaved and do this thing and follow these rules and fill out paperwork and like, and I think we just flipped that on its head. We were just like, yeah, sure, you want to serve? Great. There was this one person who would clean he was like, I want to give back. I'm going to do the dishes every Saturday. That was his thing. It influenced, what we did end up creating with Boulder Food Rescue because we were like, oh, people want a way to give back. People want a way to participate.
That's right.
They want to create with us, where there's not this separation. And so, we were like, hey, instead of doing this one meal in the park, I guess I kind of missed the part of the story where like grocery stores started donating to us. Oh,
okay. Yeah. Big one. Yeah, big one.
That's another piece where we were like, hey, instead of throwing this food away, you want to donate it to us. So we're not like pulling it out of the trash. We're like getting it donated before it ever hits the trash. Yeah. And so we're, instead of just taking it to this meal, let's take it to who else needs food, the shelters, the schools, the food pantries we were working with very quickly. And we would distribute food out there. And then from there, very quick, like maybe a year we got one grocery store to say yes, and then it kind of cascaded. I think
sure.
we had, within a few months, we had 5. It was like one pickup one day a week to like 5 different stores picking up every day of the week.
Fantastic. Yes.
Like, oh, we need volunteers, you know?
Yes.
And then I guess the other piece of it, adding in another puzzle to the piece, we were like, okay, if we're going to like rescue this food from its demise in the waste stream, well, that's going to save all of this like energy. If we drive cars, that's just going to add more.
Right.
And food was being thrown away from, blocks away from where people needed it. And so we were like, let's use bikes. We were all bike advocates at that time,
Yes,
we were like
yes.
partnering with community cycles very quickly, using their warehouse to fix up our bikes. And,
Perfect.
And so we now like, at that time, we were doing most of our distribution by bike. Now we do about half because not everybody can bike food, and we want to be inclusive. But about half of our distribution is still done by bike. And so, we became a food redistribution organization instead of meals. And we don't cook and serve that meal. Other people are doing that. So we're just kind of the distributors of food.
Right.
And grew from there. About a year in-ish, maybe less than a year, we started asking these questions. Well, who doesn't access these services and why?
Okay.
What are the barriers to getting out to a food pantry? Do you have to have paperwork? Do you have to have transportation? All of these things. And we started what we now call the no-cost grocery program, where we made connections with different community leaders, and we started taking food directly to them. So going to affordable housing sites, for example, it's like people are already there. You don't have to have transportation.
There you go.
You don't have to, take off work Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 when the pantry's open, which oftentimes if you're living on a low income, you're making an hourly wage, so you're actually losing money to go get food.
You can't do it.
You don't have to figure out picking up your kids from school and then going to the pantry, the emotional barriers, the paperwork. Like, there's so many reasons why accessing food through a charitable system is hard. It doesn't mean it's not life-saving.
For sure.
It doesn't mean that people aren't great. People are very, very grateful. And it comes with its own burdens. And so part of our motto was like, well, how can we cut down on that? So we take it directly to an affordable housing site, let's say, and then people who live there, they receive it. And then they come up with all sorts of fun ways to like figure out how to get it to their neighbors, right? Everything from like, here's a community room, let's all shop, to like door-to-door delivery, to like text ordering systems. Like people are creative,
I love that.
And so those grocery programs become like also another place of community gathering. People start meeting each other, and the stories I've heard from there is like incredible.
I bet.
So yeah, that's how we've grown, and that's really the heart of our program.
That's
now,
the heart of
it, the community-based kind of grocery programs.
It's fantastic. It's cool to look back now. And you said like, now I have the language. Now you have the ability to kind of look back. But your gatherings that have been so important to you your whole life, really, and then you're focusing on the gatherings, which are huge. The contribution, right? And then you're creating multiple communities, or you're a part of as well, multiple communities. And then you bring in, which I think is so unique, is even 50% being delivered on bicycles, so unique to Boulder, so unique to a place that we do get cold winters, we do get bad weather, and we're not a perfect biking community, but it's bikeable. It's just fantastic.
There's the volunteers who are like, I'm gonna bike all winter.
All winter. I have seen them.
Gloved up, bike trailer full of food.
I'm doing it.
It's pretty incredible.
It's fantastic. And we've seen, I think even, you think back to when you first were here, you had those couple underpasses. We had some really good paths. Like you always had the Boulder Creek path. You had some really good paths. But our network, even since 2013 and the floods, we've improved so much. Our network of safe areas to bike and paths to get around. I mean, you could really connect everything.
It's one of the things I do love about living here. I've biked across the country. I've been all sorts of places on a bike, and I'm like, the bike paths are incredible. And the community around it, and having a place like Community Cycles, who I adore. Where you can go in and fix up your bike.
I know.
Or, do a work exchange, making it so accessible for people. And that was such an unintended benefit, of doing a bicycle-based, We were like, oh, this seems like fun. We're just being weirdos. Let's do it. But the number of people who I think it brings in, because you can, I mean, there's a physical, like, there's a bike and trailer locked up at the store, you pick up the food, you're carrying hundreds of pounds.
It's a lot.
You bike it somewhere, and then you're biking back, and it's just like, there's this like, oh, the time volunteering, and our bike couriers are volunteers. So that's like another thing to know. But the time volunteering is like, it's really meaningful. You are tangibly, physically making a huge difference. It doesn't, I've gone to volunteer things where I'm like, hey, what should I do? And then they have to explain it. And they're like, hey, what should I do? And they have to, and I'm like, am I actually helpful? Like,
am I helpful?
I would rather be helpful. And you can really, like, once you get trained and you're doing it, like, you're really helpful. And I think there's something really beautiful about that.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And again, someone who hasn't done it, but I think about this, you're going home with a satisfaction, not just the emotional satisfaction of contributing, but you're also physically, like you just said, you just dumped all that food, like you just dropped a lot of weight.
You just got your workout
physically, you're like, you're like, hey, I everything I gave, physically I gave, emotionally I gave. That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's a super neat.
Yeah, it's one of the best feelings. You know, is biking away with an empty trailer. You're like, oh, this is nice again.
There you go. That's right. And so, and you mentioned community cycles. You mentioned, some of the pantries. What are some of the other major kind of that maybe we don't know about, or that you guys are partnering up with, or you team up with, or they help you help them?
Yeah. So there's Community Food Share. They're a food bank. They have a warehouse out in Louisville. They pick up from different stores.
Okay.
They cover Boulder and Broomfield County, but they also get big distributions in from across the country. So they're like they're moving the most amount of food.
Gotcha.
Right. And then they will also, so they have a pantry themselves that people can access, and they distribute to different food pantries. Food pantries tend to be smaller, and so we all have different models. We're all working towards ending hunger. We all have slightly different models and approaches, which I think, again, is a great thing.
It's a good thing.
We have different models. Diversity is good. A diverse ecosystem is a healthy one.
That's right.
If we want to look at nature. And a lot of pantries tend to be a little smaller, more community-based. There's Harvest of Hope. They focus most on food. Yep. Food is their thing. They serve families with kitchens and families without. So they're also, or people without. So like they're serving both, housed people and unhoused people. And so I think that's an angle depending on like what types of food different people need or have access to. Like not everybody has access to a can opener. So if you get canned food at a food bank, it's not very helpful. Right? So they're like very thoughtful around the types of different foods that people can get. And then there's and I'm going to focus on City of Boulder, or Boulder County at least. There's Emergency Family Assistance Association. FA Family Resource Center, so they have a food pantry, but they also have housing support, financial assistance, and all of these other pieces. And so their model, they bring in people through the food pantry, but there's also all of this financial support.
That's great.
All of these models are really different. We're like, how do we cut down on barriers? We're going to get food directly to people.
Yeah.
We can't do financial assistance.
Right.
Financial assistance is incredible, helps get people out of poverty, and you have to do a whole bunch of things, right? And that maybe sometimes people need food just right now. Just right now, for sure. To get through the night. Harvest of Hope just focuses on food. So again, I think the diversity of models is really helpful, and then there's so many more food access agencies than that. Those are like kind of the big
ones.
Kind of direct food access. There's I'm going to start. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's
I'm sorry, I'm missing y'all.
No,
but we have a coalition.
Yeah,
we have a coalition called the Food Security Network.
Oh, all right.
So the Food Security Network is essentially all of us coming together to be like, let's coordinate our times, our ways of, how do we like make it so people don't have to jump through a million different hoops.
Right. Yeah, let's get people fed. Let's get people food.
But we also do collective work together, like local advocacy work, local partnerships around like, maybe a good one right now to talk about is like, we have a large immigrant community here. Folks are afraid to go out.
Right.
How are we going to work together to serve that community?
Right.
We already do distribution. Food pantries have access to food. We have data secure software. Other people have volunteers. Let's get creative. And those are the types of things that emerge from our coalition work together.
Fantastic. Yeah. Because you guys do have all those approaches. You blend them together and pull what you need from each. That's so cool. Yeah, it is. It's layers of community again. It kind of comes back to that. I was going to ask something. Oh, what about community? This is a little bit different. Maybe community fruit rescue. Fruit rescue.
Oh yeah, I helped start that too.
Did you? They came by. Yeah, it's a good one. I mean, this is, tell us about that.
So Community Fruit Rescue originally started as a collaboration between Boulder Food Rescue, 350.org, environmental organization, fallingfruit.org. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but that's a fun one. Check them out.
Okay.
They're mapping, so they have mapped edible foods across the world.
Oh my gosh,
it's
that's
like
so cool.
Google Maps, and,
right.
and you can, there's an app and you can click on it and you can search apples, in Boulder, and it'll show you all the apple trees. And there's this one's private property, or ask before picking. This one is public land.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So,
falling fruit.
So falling fruit, it's really fun. I'm definitely biking around Boulder sometimes, so I see a fruit tree.
Yeah.
App, I'm like, I need some apricots,
Yes.
So, but it's
neat.
all things edible.
Right.
So we started community, I don't know what year, 2014 maybe. We started Community Fruit Rescue, where essentially we could, people could say, hey, I have an apple. I'm going to pick on apples, because I think that year it was like a flood of apples. It was like
right. Yeah, big harvest.
Rolling down the street. Hey, I have an apple tree. I'm not going to pick it all. Come pick it. And then they organize volunteers to come pick. And then that food then gets distributed out to, we were taking it to, Boulder Valley School District. And then they would take the apples and make applesauce for the kids. Right. And that's an example. But yeah, we still partner. So it's launched as a separate organization.
Gotcha.
But we partner with them. And so,
nice.
Yeah.
That's so neat. I mean, that was one of those things where I was actually driving by a sign that said, we're harvesting these trees. We're picking the trees. And I immediately, I stopped. I spoke to the young woman. I said, we used to have a bunch, there's fairly unhealthy now, but we have some apple trees.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is too much. It was exactly that.
Yeah.
And I got to know them through that.
That's cool.
They came out and,
oh, that's so sweet.
It was amazing. I think they did they did so much. And a third went straight to people that can eat it, because it was all, and then a third went to animals, to the wild.
Oh yeah. The Boulder Bear Coalition got
there you
That's
go.
right.
Yeah.
And so that's a huge, because bears will come down to pick the apples, and then it becomes
becomes problematic.
And they lose their lives in the worst case scenario. And so I forgot they were a part of that too. And so it goes out to the animal rescue. So so I can't even speak to the model.
It's great. It's great. No, it's great.
I will say though that there have been. They're small but mighty. Yeah. It's a lot to organize, a lot of volunteers to do that. And there's a lot of, one of the things that was really hard back when I was organizing it, I don't know if they still feel this way, but people would be like, hey, come pick my apples. Hey, come pick my apples. And it's like, we're not a free landscaping service.
Right. Yes,
and there was so much demand for that. So, just know, use them. They're awesome. And if they don't have the capacity, there's other avenues. There
you go. Yeah, well said. Yeah, again, that's a good point, because, I think it's, come clean up my yard. No, it's a little less of that.
But very cool.
Yeah, very cool. Awesome. Well, that's neat. Well, let's do this, because I think this is, I want to kind of hear, it's fun for me. We've talked about your climbing. We've talked about the mountains that are, here literally behind us and in the screen. What kind of stuff do you love to do in the county? What do you get out and do for fun? Where do you climb? What do you do? What's your outdoor activity these days, Hayden?
I used to climb a lot, and then I quit for a long time, and then I just got back into it, so that's been fun to re-explore. Biking, obviously, we've talked about that a lot. Honestly, getting out on hikes,
fantastic.
A walk with the dog is my go-to. That's my maintenance. A walk with the dog is
that's keeping you alive. Where's your favorite place to walk your dog? I mean, not necessarily the easiest that you do every day. Maybe that's your front door, but where do you love to go with your dog?
In Boulder. I'm going to say in Boulder. In Boulder proper. I've been really digging the Anemone Trail lately.
Oh, yes.
That was really
good
nice.
Call.
Actually, it's funny. I used to come all the time out to the Boulder Reservoir.
Okay.
On
that backside
for the dogs area.
Yeah.
But no, I would say up there.
That's a good spot.
I love a long backpack. So getting out of Boulder, getting out into the mountains.
Where do you love to go? Somewhere to the far, near? Do you go up to Indian Peaks, or you go further?
It depends on time. How much time do I have? I just named 100 things I'm doing all the time. So if I can get out, favorite place in Colorado. Haven't been there in a long time. San Juan's.
Oh, nice. So yeah. So
love
far
that
away.
area. But usually I don't have that much time. So, a couple hours away up into the mountains, Gore Range or San Luis Valley or somewhere else.
Well, here's what I'm going to do.
Indian Peaks are great. The only These days, you just have to get reservations for everything.
I know.
And I'm so bad at planning.
I know. Well, here's what we're gonna do. Okay. So this is a fun little thing. So you get to tell me now. You've cleared the calendar, or I've cleared it for you. You got a full day. Perfect. We're gonna have Hayden's perfect day. Now keep it pretty much within Boulder County-ish. You're driving from here. It's not all the way to San Juan. So give us a regional day. And this is what I'd love. It can be any time of year: winter, spring, summer, fall. Okay. You can be alone, with friends, anything you want. And you're going to give us kind of the lowdown, like how do you experience this area from when you wake up to end of the day? Perfect day, no obligations, no time is no obstacle. Have I given you enough time to think, or should I keep asking? You just get to, like, maybe you're eating out, maybe you're doing some work, maybe you're riding the community bike, I don't know. Maybe you're walking the dog, running, hiking, climbing, you're in a gym. You've got, it could be anything. How does that look? What would be some of those what would that day look like?
All right, I'm in Boulder. I am definitely starting slow with a cup of coffee.
Okay. At home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to include we'll go on a dog walk.
Okay.
For sure.
Okay.
Me, my partner, and I'm going to include my friends.
I like it.
I'm going to include my friends in all of this.
Okay. Let's go.
And, you know, let's go, like, picnic on top of, let's go up to the Anemone Trail.
Okay.
And go have a picnic up on the viewpoint up there.
Okay.
And then, we're bringing our own food.
Naturally.
And then we'll end the evening. I'll be down for a bike ride along Creek Path first. Junkyard Social.
Okay.
Junkyard Social has been a fun place. Yeah. They have a bunch of events in the evening now.
Yeah.
They've had a bunch of, like, it's become like a little queer event hub.
Nice.
So I've seen drag shows there, burlesque shows there. There's like benefit shows. Let's say it's a benefit show for an organization who's working on immigration or
totally
some kind of like social justice thing, and dance party. Call it a night.
There you go. It sounds awesome. It sounds awesome. The thing is, it's fun to there's often I will steal and draw inspiration because it's reminders or it's introductions to something I haven't done. And then also it's just fun to see, because I really think coming back to that diversity, the different folks, why we come here and from where we come, how do we enjoy this place? Okay. And you know what I mean? It's like you just said a cool one. I haven't heard that yet. You're sitting up on Anemone with your friends having a picnic with the dog maybe. And it's such an awesome spot, but it's kind of underrated. It's like, it's next door to Sneeta's, but it's not Sneeta's.
It's a little less crowded.
A little better, right?
Maybe this is like a Wednesday because it's the crowds that's part of the reason I try to get up further.
Totally.
Whether it's a 4 mile up towards Ned or Indian Peaks, it's like, well, it depends on the day, but I like to avoid the crowds if I can.
That's fun.
Can I add one more thing into my my day?
Let's hear it.
Only just drawing inspiration from yesterday. I had this crew of friends who we got in the past. We'd get together and we were learning ASL.
Okay.
And now we're just all friends. We're not like technically learning, but we just got together yesterday for the first time in a while. And, it's like a lot of like Latina immigrants, deaf, hard of hearing folks, queer people, activists. And we're all learning this thing together, or practicing this thing together. And yesterday was this moment of like, wow, we really need each other right now.
Oh my God.
There's so much painful stuff happening in the world. Our trans communities are being attacked. Our immigrant communities are being attacked. We're like we're all activists in different ways, working so hard to protect one another and to get together. And, I think what's so beautiful about this moment is like, we're not talking because we're signing.
Yes. Yes. So unique.
And I feel like we're the loudest crew in the place.
Oh my gosh.
Because we're like cracking up, and we're like, it's also very like ASL is such a beautiful language because it's so expressive, and it's like, there's the Latinas are so expressive, and the queers are like being so weird, and it's like this place where it's just like, oh, we're the loudest crew here, even though it's all totally silent.
Oh my gosh, that's beautiful.
And I want to add that to my day because I just like, I felt really fulfilled yesterday hanging out with
No, that's nice. I'm glad you put that in. Glad you put that in. No, for sure. It's beautiful. And I agree. I think just having that connection, you know what I mean? That's what I'm hearing from that. And it's so beautiful because you brought that in, a piece of important connection after saying, I like to avoid the crowds. It's like, it's really nice. I mean, you're doing special stuff. I've had just a blast getting to know you just a little bit. I could do another hour, but I won't. Let me ask you this. Were you thinking that we were going to talk about something that we didn't talk about? Is there anything on your mind that maybe you could bring up or that I overlooked, or is that not the case?
I guess I just want to say for folks, if you want to get involved, with Boulder Food Rescue, reach out. We're always looking for volunteers.
For sure.
Bike or car. Takes a couple hours every week, is what we ask. Ideally, someone would do every Tuesday at 9 a.m. or whatever works for your schedule. There's also opportunities to get involved, just kind of as needed, or on a more random schedule.
For sure.
So I will say that we would love to have you.
Yeah.
If you have ideas outside of we don't just use food distribution volunteers. People help us with marketing or communications or all sorts of things. We really love and welcome whatever your skill set is or knowledge base is. Would love that.
How do we find you?
BoulderFoodRescue.org.
That's it.
So yeah, I'll say that. We'd love to have you. And I think that. Was I going to say anything else?
It's good. It's good. No, it's good. And you know what? That's the thing for me. Kind of closure on that is exactly that. Is inviting people, myself included. I want to do it. It's something I've seen, and I've mentioned that before. But I've never really known enough about it. And really, I think going and encouraging people to go to the site, reach out, figure out how you can contribute. Because I think right now, if you are watching what's going on in the world and you feel kind of helpless, the best way to do something about it is to feel helpful and be helpful. That's something.
Right. And if you don't, people, it's you give from your overflow. So contribute, you just said contribute. And I'm I just pitched volunteering. Also, we run off of donations. Mm-hmm. If people are oh, I have, financial assistance to give, or we can use that because it takes a lot to coordinate all of that. And that's just our Boulder. I didn't even talk about nationally. We have a Food Rescue Alliance. Right. We have software that helps us coordinate all of that. That's again, very data secure and very useful in this time. So there's a lot that we're building, here.
Absolutely.
And so whether it's time or money or care, it's we're here to receive that because that's how we function. And I think the other piece is you do get to meet people that you might not meet otherwise. You know, when you're dropping food to a community, I mean, you might be practicing your Spanish too. You'll see, depending on where you're going. But or there's communities for older adults, and maybe you're young. There's intergenerational connections that happen. 100%. There's so much there, and I think I named a lot of things that I personally love to do that are alone in the woods, Hayden alone in the woods. That's how I reprieve, but really I'm such a community person.
Yes, cool.
And again, the reason why I stayed here is because there's so many beautiful people here that I've gotten the chance to meet through this organization. And so and I think, we grow because of difference, and we grow because of, our stories. And so just offering that as an opportunity for people.
Oh, man. Involved. Amen. And I tell you what, Hayden, you're one of those beautiful people, and I mean that sincerely. I love getting to know you. I love hearing your story. I love what you're doing. So keep doing it.
Thanks.
It's fantastic.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
And with that, thank you so much for coming. Here's what I'll do at the end of our conversation, the same as I always do, and I'll encourage you to go out there and do something that you love.